We're taking you to the walled medieval village of St-Paul de Vence in the south of France. From the main road, you can see a fine view of St-Paul de Vence, surrounded with its massive walls and standing on a detached promontory with steep terrace slopes descending down to the river Var. Now, of all the places that we visited, this is the one place that I would not want to miss. It really is special. The bus drops you off across the street. You walk through a little place into the village. The visitor enters the town through the vaulted passage of the main gate and then makes his way by the inner guard and under a tower with a channel for the portcullis, that gate that could drop down to keep out the enemy, finally reaching the inside of the town. We're going to take you on a walk right through the main lane of St-Paul de Vence. This goes right through the middle of the village from one end to the other. You can see on the map how we came in through the main front gate, and now we're walking along the main lane, the Rue Grande. There's a few little side streets as well. It's all pedestrianized in here, and the main action, the galleries, are along the main lane. Now this is really a very special town. St-Paul is a medieval village, stone structures that date back to the 15th and 16th centuries. The architectural interest of the place is immediately apparent. On every hand is evidence of genuine and ancient, unaltered work. The doorways are old and varied in form, and almost every one has a paneled lintel supported by corbels, many of the former containing carved shields and ornaments and enriched with leaves and scrolls. Most of these doorways are from the beginning of the 16th century and indicate very early Renaissance work. Others are carved and molded with a double curvature of the late Gothic style, and a few show marks of a simpler and earlier design. It had fallen apart in recent times, early 20th century. It was quite dilapidated, but it has been fixed up like new. It's amazing because the art industry has moved in. There are 50 art galleries here of the highest quality. You could spend a few days here in St. Paul and never get tired of walking through these little lanes. It's quite small. It's only about a half a mile long and a quarter mile wide, but each little lane is worth a close look. You might even see it in the morning, come back in the evening, enjoy the different qualities of light and atmosphere. This is a living and breathing work of art. The Place de la Grande Fontaine stands in the very center of town. Redesigned in the 17th and again in the 19th century, this square has always been the busiest spot in the village. From dawn until dusk, villagers would come here to fetch their water. Donkeys and mules would drink, and washerwomen would scrub and beat their laundry in the wash house. And the square also hosted the weekly market in the 17th century. Well, here's a little bit of history of St-Paul de Vence supplied by the Tourist Information Office. In the Middle Ages, St. Paul became a border stronghold. In 1388, the county of Nice switched its allegiance from Provence to the county of Savoy. And this modified the eastern border of Provence, henceforth marked by the river Var, and therefore St. Paul assumed a strategic position in this new political context, becoming a border stronghold of the utmost importance. St. Paul officially became part of France in 1482. Ramparts were initially erected during the second half of the 14th century. While the armies of Charles V, the King of Spain, had occupied St. Paul in 1522 and besieged the town again in 1536, illustrating the strategic importance of St. Paul on Europe's political chessboard. After the destructive invasion of Provence by Charles V of Spain, Francis found that his frontier in this area was insufficiently protected and proceeded with construction of the walls and bastions which still exist almost in their entirety today. Most of the buildings date from that time of Francis I, King Francois I of France. St. Paul was thus raised into a place of importance and security and became the residence of a governor and various families of distinction. This no doubt led to the improvement of the architecture, which we see so many examples of today. There is a friendly and helpful tourist information office in the old town at the beginning of Rue Grande.
So my name is Elodie. I work in the tourist office in St. Paul. St. Paul is very famous because before it was a very little village with a lot of artists like Picasso, Chagall. There were French actors, Yves Montand, Simone Signoret. That's why now the village is very famous. In the village you can find around 50 galleries, workshop and artists also, a lot of shops of decoration of the house. The village was built in 11th, 12th century for the first fortification, and after by Francois I in the 16th century. It's a medieval village. If you want to do the tour of the village, you can find the main street, where you can find the shops, the galleries, everything. You have the place where there is the big fountain, and also the heart of the village with the church. And also a lot of shops, a pleasant, charming streets. Yeah. About the history of the village, you can find several houses was from the 12th century. Also for the fortifications, there was built on the 16th century by Francois I, and St. Paul was a royal city, town. In the village you can find around 3 hotels, so one with 2 stars. It's a very charming hotel, and you can live on the heart of the village. So you have different view on the west side, on the east side.
That friendly tourist information office has many suggestions for guided tours and activities and walks on your own.
So this is a map of the village in French and English, and inside you have the map. And this is the list of the main touristic sites to see in St. Paul. Okay? I give you this one. You can find the list of the accommodation and the restaurants, also the shopping, and the artists and the workshops in the village, the galleries.
Okay, great.
And after you have this one also in French and English, and you can find inside the path in St. Paul and also around the village, like this.
Okay. The surrounding countryside has some lovely nature hikes that you might enjoy. The Tourist Information Office describes a self-guided walk that you can take that will show you the circuit fortifications of the old wall that runs around town. These ramparts of St-Paul de Vence were among the very first bastion fortifications erected in France to have been designed by a French architect. Back in 1872, the city purchased back the bastion walls of St-Paul de Vence, and they were declared a listed historical monument in 1945, and today they are the jewel in the village's historical crown. While walking around in St-Paul de Vence, you cannot help but notice there's a lot of art galleries. And in addition, there are 26 art studios or ateliers. And there's also a lot of shops. There's 6 craft shops and 20 other shops for gifts, kitchen goods, glass, clothing, ceramics, herbs, all sorts of things. There's a bakery, a deli. You can buy olive oil, perfumes, and even furniture. Sometimes as you're walking along, you might get lucky and notice an artist inside their studio at work. So go on inside and say hello, maybe have a conversation. They perhaps will tell you something about their work and their style. You could buy a painting so contemporary it's still wet.
I think that happened. If it was a collage, but it isn't.
So, like all art, you borrow from the past and then make it your own.
Yes, absolutely. Made ideas of tissues and things like that.
Mm-hmm. You're
Silvia Bertini, and I'm half French, half Italian.
Oh, really? So you love Italy too, then?
Yes, of course.
Beautiful gallery, atelier. So, merci.
Je vous en prie.
And au revoir. Even the paving on the lanes is precise and beautiful. There's obviously a lot of money that's flowing through this little town of St-Paul with these high-end art galleries everywhere. And these monies have been put to good use in fixing up this little village. There's no graffiti, there's no trash, nothing's broken here. Everything is sparkling. They keep the place spick and span. So if you want to see an old medieval village that is as clean as today, go visit St-Paul in Provence. Well, this little fellow is keeping his eyes out on the town. It seems like he's the sheriff. He's watching over everything, making sure all things are in order. Notice he's not even on a leash. This is a friendly little guy. And you walk on by, he's keeping his eyes on you, so you better behave. The old church in the middle of town is certainly worth visiting. And right next to it, you'll find public toilets, which really come in handy. And we are giving you the walking tour as we stroll through the lanes. It's almost like you're burning some calories just watching these buildings glide by. As you venture through these village streets, it becomes clear that St-Paul de Vence remains synonymous with art. Once again, back to the Grand Fountain. It's only natural you'll find yourself walking in circles in this little place. St-Paul de Vence is quite small, and yet within this small space, you're going to find that practically every square inch is worth looking at carefully. It is just beautifully put together. The population who lives within the walls is only 300 people, and yet each year it gets 2.5 million visitors. So it can get quite crowded, especially during the busy season, say from April through September. If you can, it's better to come here in the off-season. November, December, January. It's really quite lovely, and you'll find the shops and galleries are open throughout the year. Well, it's finally time to depart St-Paul, going out through that same medieval gateway. It's a double gateway, as you see, for a really strong defensive fortification, over to the bus stop. The buses come about every hour during the day, and later in the rush hour, say 5 p.m., there's 3 buses in 1 hour, and the last bus out is at 7:20 in the evening. So you don't stay too late in St-Paul unless you're spending the night there. Bus number 400. You could take this bus all the way back to the city of Nice if that's your home base. It takes about 1 hour, and the price is very reasonable. Only €2 for the bus ticket. So that's really a good value. Some views of St-Paul from the distance as we drive by, bidding adieu. In our case, we decided to take the train part of the way, so we took the bus to Cagnes, and then from here, we'll take the train over to Nice. It's a little quicker that way if you make the connections, and we had a train ticket, so we got home fast. We'll be showing you more of St-Paul de Vence in the evening in a related episode.